Howdy y'all, welcome back to Camp Chuck Productions. As you can see, I'm starting to think about hot tent season. Hopefully so are you. It is that time of year. And if you are new to hot tenting or you have never tried it, please give it a shot. It is something that is really awesome. So I am not going to talk about tents. This is my One Tigris Rock Fortress. I have a full review on this tent. I actually have a couple different videos on it. And this is my stove, and I don't even know the brand. It's some sort of Amazon buy that was a gift, and it is awesome as far as wood stoves go. But I want to talk about things that I think people forget about all the time. And the very first and most important thing that I want to start with is your carbon monoxide detector. Someone pointed this out to me, and I never actually have talked about the fact that in all of my videos, I have this with me when I hot tent. You need to have some form of carbon monoxide detector and make sure that it is working before you go out. This is a super duper crucial piece of equipment. And one of the things that I highly recommend, spend a little money on, get a good one, and make sure it's working. All right, number two. A good old-fashioned avalanche shovel is something that I cannot recommend enough. And I was hoping to be super cool and have this thing slide, but apparently I'm not that cool. Oh, I was holding on to the wrong part there. So this comes in handy all the time. You are going to need to clear snow. If you don't have a set of snowshoes, I would highly also recommend always bringing those, but that's not what this is about. This is really about just some simple things. You can look at these on Amazon. You can pick them up at like a Dick's Sporting Goods if you have one of those, or a Scheels, but go get an avalanche shovel so that you can dig around camp. You can make life a lot easier. You can cover your snow skirts, or you can dig out places where you can bury your tent stakes, which is a perfect segue into our next item. Tent stakes. There are a million different types of tent stake, and I recommend having a bunch of different tent stakes. So these are the types that actually come with my One Tigris Rock Fortress. And you know, these aluminum stakes are, I mean, let's be honest, they're super cheap. Here, I'll give you an example of bent, broken, bent, especially when you start to get into hard ground. So I really recommend, you know, I'm going to use these until they all break, because I always have a bag full of stakes and cordage. But sometimes even these stupid plastic yellow stakes can come in really handy when you're using a hot tent. I also recommend having different styles. The tent pegs, look, you can also see a lot of stuff bends when it's cold and you're trying to hammer into icy or hard, super hard permafrost ground. So you got to have a lot of different options. And like I said, as I was scrolling through Amazon, I found all kinds of options, including like the screw-in type. You can get some that are like full-on metal that are supposed to be nicer than this. I think there's like a titanium stake now. But one of the other things that I'd recommend, and it doesn't have to be this, but this is a pretty good example. So this is a sandbag that I use when I go out for client shoots. But this would be something that you could easily just pick up the bags. There, I think I got like 5 of them for 20 bucks on Amazon. And you could fill this with snow, you could fill it with rocks, you could fill it with anything really, and you could dig a hole, run a line to it, and bury it. And this, sometimes burying something, whether it be a bag, one of the logs from your fire, sometimes that really helps. But you also need to understand what your tent needs as far as stakes. This One Tigris has like, oh my God, 25 different stakeout points that you have to get them all down. So just look at your gear and think outside the box. But something like a bag, you know, stuff sacks, things like that can come in super duper handy. Number 4 that I would highly recommend is that you pick up some sort of cot. This is my Marchway. I also have done a review on this, sleeping in the hot tent. This thing is awesome. I've used this on a lot of different trips because it puts you close to the ground, and it is really light and really easy. You can also get the full-on stand-up. I have another cot over here that is like the full-on Coleman layup. It's, you know, it's all 2 feet off the ground. This thing is just inches off the ground. You can also just use a sleeping pad. Just make sure that you have something that is actually rated for winter camping. Probably going to be sleeping on the snow, and I would also recommend having a tarp if you're going to be sleeping directly on the ground or with a ground cloth, something like that. All right, get caught. They're cheap. I mean, look at how small this thing is. It folds up. It's great. Can't recommend it enough. All right, number 5. The last thing you really want to make sure you have is a good axe. And I'm not talking about like a little teeny tiny hatchet. I'm talking about an actual axe, and one that you're going to use to hammer in steaks, one that you're going to use to try to pry those steaks back out of the frozen ground, one that you're going to be able to split your wood with, something substantial. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be expensive. You don't need to go spend a bunch of money on like some Viking bushcrafting axe that costs $7,000 because some dude made it by hand. But definitely pick up something that's got a longer handle, 18, 21 inches, something in that range, and that will actually be used as a tool. And realize that, I mean, this thing gets thrown in the snow, it gets tossed all over. You can see some of the rust on it. I mean, it gets abused, but that's what this thing is for. And that's why I also, just have one of these. Have them in your car, have them inside your tent. This thing is really, really super duper important. Another bonus tip that I have for you is if you have a portable stove like this thing folds up, and you're supposed to be able to tote it around, right? It rattles, it jingles, it just goes nuts. So one of the things that I have is, again, this is a thrift store backpack. It was meant for travel. My entire stove fits in here. So these are super important things that I highly recommend you think about before you just realize that it's not just the tent and the stove. You've got to have some of these extra things, especially a carbon monoxide detector, a shovel. I mean, these are all just really, really important things that you need to have. And, it's going to take something that's really fun and meant to be super nice and comfortable and just make it that much better. So if you enjoyed this video, please go down, hit the like button. If you're feeling super generous, subscribe. I would appreciate it. Otherwise, I will see you all back in the next video. Check out Amazon. There's so much stuff for this. Also, always have lots of extra cord, I mean, I know, bonus stuff, but I highly recommend it. All right, see y'all. Be well. Go on the inside, and then you're supposed to be able to carry it and travel. But again, I found that this stove fits perfectly in my backpack, and it's got wheels, so I can roll it around. Much easier storage solution. So again, I got this at the thrift store for like, I think $8. Awesome. All right, so number 3 that I would highly, highly recommend, or is this number 4? All right.